Can you name one?
Communication.
Communication.
Paramount.
Right. Scientific writing. Yes, more or less. Thanks. Also interpersonal skills, right? Being resilient, understanding each other, especially in multicultural, multilingual environments where we are expected to engage in now and more in the future. So this is a short presentation of a bigger module, right? Which will be an online course that will be delivered to you, along with all the other modules that the GRID project will offer. So what we're going to see now is just a snapshot of the bigger online course, right? The intensive course is a condensed form of presentations about the modules, and all the content will be delivered to you online. Right, so that was a kind of introduction about the set of abilities that we call soft skills, and scientific writing is part of them. The aim is to familiarize participants, and by participants I mostly mean students, but also academic staff. The point will be to familiarize you with speaking, and especially here, writing of short abstracts in English. Now this is kind of contradictory, because I think that most of you in this auditorium are non-English speakers, right? So it's a kind of paradox. You know, why should we deal with English? It's not to undermine the value of native languages. It's just one means of communication. It's the lingua franca, as the Romans used to say. Just a basic means of communication in scholar work. But you should definitely spend time and invest in publishing or producing research in your native language. And this is for several reasons. Okay? The fact that now we focus on English shouldn't neglect us from the focus of communicating in our native language. And can you tell me why you think communicating in our native language is important? Why is it still worth producing in our native language? Although the English-speaking users are more and more abundant, let's say. And also the capacities and the skills, the English-speaking skills, have also developed. Now we can speak better English than, let's say, the previous generation. Why is it still worth producing in our native language? Yes, please.
I would say to inform other people who do not speak English about what we say to other people in the world, right?
Right. So the first one is to engage with people in our country who do not speak English, especially elderly people, right? Who didn't have the capacity to learn English when they were at school. Okay, my grandfather, my grandmother, and my grandfather, let's say, okay. This is still a small population, and let's say it's not commercially driven, right? Because they are close to extinction, which is in a very, silly way. Which is the other reason for publishing in your native language? Yeah.
Publishing or communicating?
Actually, this is part of the answer. That was a very, very good question.
So, I mean, it is very important, as a teacher or a scientist, to inform our students using our own language, because this also keeps our own culture, the way that we are understanding better, the way that we are talking. So I think communicating within our language, we're communicating better within our nationality, because the way that we are talking our native languages is more understandable to the others.
Yes, correct. I thought this as
it's a very good teaching tool in order to teach, your students or your colleagues of what are you doing in your own language.
Right, because between native speakers we understand
This
each
is
other
our
better.
culture, our civilization. I mean,
Right.
the way that we are talking is much different.
There's also, this is true, there's also another reason. It's not false.
Yeah.
Still other, yes please.
I think because our native language is the base where we develop first the skill, and then it's the base where we will develop it in the other language also. If we do not develop it in our own native language, because it's the language where we will always be better to communicate, not only to use the scientific terms, but to really communicate. And then on that base we will be the other language.
Yes, correct. That's correct. And there's also another reason. And Kostas, you asked, do you mean publishing or do you mean communication? And this brings me exactly to the next point, which is science today. It's not science we used to do over the last decades, which was kind of more in a closed environment, like university as an ivory tower, isolated from society. We don't act like this anymore. Like the scientist is a living person in a living community now, right? And we find ourselves in situations where we need to communicate science much more than what we did in the past, right? Now there's a very big area of activity which is called science communication. There's lots of commercial interest from the universities and also from business who make the connection between society and university, how the knowledge created in the university can be spread into the community, right? Not only relevant to the scholars who will open a very highly ranked journal, but to anyone else. Think about yourselves, okay? You open the news. There are more and more science news in the regular news than before, right? And this is a consequence of the fact that science now is much more widespread and there's a need to connect with the citizens to understand what science is, right? And this tendency, and because in our language, in our country, people read the press, which is in the native language, there's a need for us to be able to communicate in our native language, or to produce in our native language, in the sense of communicating our results to our, let's say, parents or grandfathers who know nothing about our science. Right? So think about yourselves not only as scientists, but as people valuable to society, and then you'll understand the link between the two. Last point about this is, so firstly, scientists communicate to a broader audience than scientists decades or centuries ago used to do, but also we use other means. Although in the past we used, let's say, scientific journals to communicate scientific results, now we use a broader repertoire of means, and mostly digital means. Internet and social media. Perhaps you have heard about the term of digital scholar, which is a digital academic. It's the person who can be a lecturer who now is expected to be able to communicate his or her research through the internet and social media. This is brand new and something that will increase in the future. Because now through internet and social media there are much more opportunities to engage with the public. It's not only a unidirectional method of communicating results, it's also a bidirectional way of communicating with society and with other scholars through digital communities, through digital means. Right? So there are several aspects of the academic profile that is now needed, and as a student I would like you to raise these points at this stage, because it's important that you understand the role that you're going to take, be it in the academia or in the business sector, because especially in your sector, you may find a job in a research institution, for instance, right? And being able to communicate your results in a broader audience and also with broader tools, broader digital communication means is very important. So this presentation is about scientific writing of abstracts, but I would like you, to raise awareness about all these aspects. The most basic thing is writing an abstract, but there is lots of things more to do more after the abstract is written. So I will be dealing with this very basic level of abstract writing. This is the outline of my presentation. I'll start by the main contents of the abstract, some help to define your research topic, where to find bibliographical references, why do you need to cite the authors, how to structure your research methodology inside the abstract, and easy ways to revise your abstract for grammatical and spelling errors. So to summarize your work, you need to bear in mind the main components of your research. Mostly an abstract contains the research question in a statement, the approach to answer the question, the justification and the implications for your study, the results, and your conclusions. These are the fundamental components of the abstract. It needs to have those. The steps to engage in this process is to start from your research question or your hypothesis, to take into account the context in which you will carry out your study. Then it's about explaining your choices, justifying them by informing the readers what your research is providing in terms of answers. So don't only announce what the study is about, you should also announce the results within the abstract, right? And do avoid jargon, subjective words, and adjectives. Although you are emotionally connected to what you write, okay, you should avoid from using subjective words. You should leave the reader the ability to judge by himself or herself, right? You communicate your results, and the interpretation will be done by your audience, and the adjectives as little adjectives as possible. The questions. Can I ask you how many students from the room have written a scientific abstract? For a conference? For a journal?
Yes.
Well done. About the questions, how to start or what to do first. We start by a series of questions, asking what is my research question, what is the context of my research, right? Can I justify my research methodology, am I able to explain my choices in writing, and what are the results of the study? Okay, it's like you should have the proper distance between your abstract and yourself to be able to judge whether what you write is what is acceptable. Okay, it's like falling in love. You cannot, okay, you love your piece of work, okay, but you should keep the necessary distance between what you do. And these are questions that you can ask, right? To be aware of the degree of subjectivity. Right. Short video for you. Some tips on how to write an abstract. There are many on the internet. I think this is short and relevant and kind of engaging.
In each of those sections. First, the problem and purpose. The opening sentences of your abstract need to seize your reader's attention. So clearly state the problem and clearly state your purpose. Don't be afraid to start your purpose sentence with the phrase, "The purpose of this study is to blank." That's a good way to start. For example, take a look at this problem and purpose. Homelessness is associated with many health risks, including high body mass index or BMI. The purpose of this study is to investigate the relationship between homelessness and BMI among Baltimore teenagers. Next, let's talk about your methods. Now, you're not going to have a lot of space to go into great detail about your methodology. If the use of a certain instrument is common in your field, you probably don't need to go into great length about it. So ask yourself, what are the most significant details about my methodology? In other words, what will readers need to know to understand your results and your conclusions? Back to our example. High schoolers around the city anonymously reported their current housing status, height, and weight. Height and weight were then converted to BMI. After your methods come your results. Just like the methods section, you need to ask yourself, what are the most significant results? Focus on the results that relate most strongly to your problem and purpose and to your conclusions and implications. Here are the results in our example. Homelessness was found to be associated with higher BMIs. Last, the conclusions and implications. This section should point back to your problem and purpose. What do your results mean in the context of the problem? So here's the conclusion. Further investigation is needed to determine the causes of high BMIs among youth experiencing homelessness. So there you have it. That's the content of most abstracts. Remember, the details may change, but the overall story is going to stay the same. I'm Clancy Clausen. Stay tuned for more videos.
Is there a particular reason impeding you from writing an abstract, or you haven't tried, or you haven't found yourself in a situation of producing an abstract for those who haven't tried yet? Is it something that scares you, or you didn't have the opportunity before?
I think the majority of them, they did not have the opportunity.
Okay.
Because the majority of them are undergraduate students,
Okay.
even though that we should encourage them.
In some cases, yes, in undergraduate students it's more rare, let's say. Right? But it's good to be prepared to what's expected of you. There's another video on how to define your research topic, but because of the size we'll be communicating, I don't think it's worth showing this video. It's about the distinction between a research topic and a research question and a research hypothesis. These are simple things that can usually are confusing for students. Again, there are many videos on the internet, and I thought this one was kind of useful, so I placed it here. Of course, by exploring internet, you learn much more. It's just a suggestion, right? Now, where and how to find bibliographical references. The question is using Google, Wikipedia, Google Scholar, and ResearchGate to look for bibliography. What are the differences? But let's start by the question, do you know all of them? Yes?
Depends.
Do you know all of them?
Are we know all of them?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there anybody in the room not knowing one? Yes? ResearchGate. Okay, ResearchGate is like a social network. It's the Facebook of scholars, I call it simply, where each one has an account, right? And one can post scholar publications and papers at conferences or journal papers that one has, and there is a networking facility, which means that people connect to each other, and there is also a notification system where a scholar that you want to follow and follow his or her work, you can do it by selecting this person so that you get notifications when this person posts a new paper on that. And it's kind of annoying in the sense that it's a business behind, so it's just like Facebook, with all the disadvantages of Facebook, like regular notifications, and this tendency to push people to network, although sometimes you don't want to network or not network so much, right? It's a way of communicating your work more quickly than by waiting the full publication of your paper in a scientific journal. I don't know, Ivo, if you have thought of referring to ResearchGate in the sense of impeding the open access principles, or I can deal with this now. It's an opportunity. Have you thought of dealing with that? I don't want to duplicate your work because you're much more experienced in open science than I am.
We'll revisit.
Okay. Because ResearchGate is a business, like Facebook is a business, one does not have full ownership of his content, even if he's or she is the main author of the work. So basically, ResearchGate can use your content without your consent.
But actually right now, ResearchGate is forbidden. You are forbidden to upload any of your drafts in ResearchGate because immediately the editors will find it out and they send you emails to drop it down.
Yes. Can I elaborate on this? But I'm sure that everybody in the auditorium understands what it is about. From the moment you submit a paper until the moment it is published, there are several months, right? So you submit a draft, all right, and you wait. The draft is being revised by reviewers, you get comments back, and perhaps you deal with them or not, but the status of the paper is not stabilized before the journal says, yes, I'm going to submit it in 6 months, right? So there are different versions of the same paper until its final acceptance by the journal. Again, between the acceptance by the journal and the time of publication, there is also a lag of time, several months, depending on the paper. Depending on the journals. For instance, in highly ranked journals, it may take many months between the time that the publisher tells you, yes, I'm going to publish it, and the time it will figure in an issue of the journal. It may take even a year.
Yeah, I think this depends on the discipline.
On discipline, right. So some authors say, oh my God, this is far too long. I want to communicate my results. I want to connect with the community and spread the news. And sometimes people upload on their profile on ResearchGate the versions of the paper that they shouldn't, because they publish in a mainstream journal, not an open access journal. Perhaps I need to make a parenthesis now. Perhaps what I'm saying is totally irrelevant to some of you, but perhaps interesting to the others. So I'll take the chances and elaborate more. I'm sorry for those who know this already. Ivo, we're going to address the issue of open science. So there are open access journals and non-open access journals, right? In the non-open access journals, you're not authorized to publish the paper before it appears in the journal. So this is what Kostas said. You do not have the capacity to upload your paper before it figures on the journal, and there's also a veto period that you're not authorized to publish it before 1 year after submission. There are several stages. So research leave is an opportunity to publish your work, but it has several conditions. One is that you're not authorized to publish the papers that your publisher doesn't allow you to, for instance. But also a disadvantage of this is that you're not sure what you're reading. So perhaps someone uploads a draft paper which is not accepted. Do you understand the difference? If you submit a manuscript, right, and it is not accepted for publication, it's just an essay. It's just something that I write, on my desk. It doesn't have any visibility or recognition because it hasn't been reviewed. Yes, please.
When you put your article on archive, it's more safe than on research aid. So because you have a date when you publish on archive, and you're just waiting for the results.
Yes. You mean your institutional archive?
Yes.
Yes, definitely.
There is an archive, a preprint. You're talking about the preprint.
Yes.
This is preprint.org. So you can upload over there whatever paper you have before the submission. The paper appears to the Google Scholar if you upload it in the preprint.org. Can be appeared in the Google Scholar, and when it's going to be published, or it's going to be by the reviewers, they are going to approve the publishing, then automatically it's withdrawn by the editor from the Google Scholar, and it is replaced by the original paper, but not the paper, but just the title. So you can pre-announce your results in this preprint.org. But these are not, there is a clear statement that this is not an accepted version of your paper. It's just to pre-publish your results, because you would like to be, let's say, covered and be the first one that you have announced. Yeah, this is something that we are using sometimes, depending on how enthusiastic we are about our work.
Before we answer this question here, any other doubts or questions? Or anybody who doesn't know other...
I would like to add to this kind of tools, like Web of Science and Scopus are also very useful tools in order to find references and do bibliographic research.
Yes,
and
I did on purpose not to mention that.
Ah, why?
Sorry.
Why?
Because they are fully trustworthy. And here I'm dealing more on possibilities to find references outside of very trustworthy means.
Trustworthy? Is a bad thing to be trustworthy?
No, here I'm dealing with the blurry situations, like I find something on Google, can I use it? This kind of things.
Scholar is too. Scopus and the Web of Science, I think, are very good tools.
Yes. Yes. Because there are lots of information out there, and perhaps you find a paper just by Googling a term or a keyword. So, shall we tackle the question now? You wanted to answer this, if I understood well. You said it depends.
No, I misunderstood something. Sorry.
Anybody trying? Yes.
We are talking here about validity and reliability of the scientific paper, right? Because these are the two terms we kind of use when we read the scientific paper. So if I go to Google or Wikipedia and I search for the word, as you said, how reliable and how valid is what I find? How do I know that the information I can use in my paper, and how I know that I can trust it? Right? So these are the questions I would ask about how valid and how reliable is the source.
Right. let's say that they are violent. How reliable do you think they are?
I have to maybe go and search and do another research on who wrote the article, how many publications he has, how many peer reviews, how many references. So it's like a funnel. I will do a funnel. Maybe I will start with Google, Wikipedia maybe, and then go to Scholar and then ResearchGate. So it's, I will do like a funnel. I will ask always, is this reliable? Is this valid? And go one level further down.
Good point. Attentive answer. Of course, there is no good or bad way to reach scientific papers. It's just a matter of understanding, as you said, it's a matter more of validity and reliability. We tend not to cite Wikipedia in scholar work. It's not that it's not reliable or valid, it's just that there are versions of Wikipedia and perhaps this may be confusing in certain occasions. What I would like to point out here is an attempt to differentiate between web pages established by people who have a scientific or professional project. And here I would put the journal websites, the researchers' websites, laboratory website, Google Scholar, and there are the non-professional sources who may be from people who may be passionate about but do not have the credibility to be referenced. The only point I would like also to raise about this this issue is that on Google Scholar and on ResearchGate, sometimes you do not find the preprints, which is the most accurate version before. You may sometimes find drafts, and this is very misleading for a researcher. Because there is no filtering or certification methods. Right. You have, right. Of course, you are student, you belong to an institution, so you have access to subscription only journals. So let's say that you don't have this access anymore for a particular reason. What do you do to download a publication that you want to read? What do you do? Yes.
Most scientists want their papers to be as accessible as possible, but they're forced to put their papers behind the paywall. So if you just send them an email, they will gladly just send it for free.
That's one of the arguments. Because, as I said before, I think it's more and more common that scholars are, share their work, although some journals prevent them from sharing that. We sign contracts with the publisher that prevent us from sharing them. But I haven't found in my student and during master and PhD work, I haven't met any situation where I emailed the author and the author didn't refuse to send me the paper. We are talking about papers in subscription only journals, paid journals, right? We talk about these situations now. Never. Always the authors send by mail the publication. Yes,
also at our university's, for instance, website, we can upload our own manuscripts, but then there is a policy because you may not be allowed to upload the final version of the paper, but you may upload the version that was submitted. That it's still actually the same version, but it's just the PDF file that you prepared, before the submission. And that's actually okay because the university doesn't want to have illegal material on its website, obviously. So there are different actually rules on what you can share in which stage of your paper you can share. It may not be a draft version. I mean, it's considered to be draft because it's not the official published version, but it's okay to.
Yes, definitely.
And
Now-
that goes to the Google Scholar thing or the personal webpage, for instance.
Yes,
They find it
absolutely.
there.
The submitted is not the accepted.
It's the accept. It's
Yes.
the
Yes.
final
Submitted
the
or
final
the
submitted
accepted.
the final submitted version. But
That
it's
has
not
been
like
reviewed.
yes, after the
Okay.
review.
So there is another tool that overcomes everything. This close the camera. Sci-Hub. I mean, everyone knows the Sci-Hub. No, in the Sci-Hub there is a Russian website that you can download the original paper from the journal, even if it is like.
I definitely opt for institutional repositories. Okay, if I have your attention for this because it's an important point, if you don't mind. Okay. Institutional repositories are mostly, we can simplify things by saying that it's the library of your university, right? And in terms of adjustment to the contemporary trend of visibility and also open science, most institutional repositories are very trustworthy in terms of making papers accessible. As Eva said, for instance, in Aalborg, the accepted papers are put into the institutional repositories. I definitely suggest that you look at the institutional repositories of other scholars also. And there's also another reason, is that because there's lots of effort about open science, the interoperability of the repositories is more and more important. And let's say if Eva places a paper in the Aalborg institutional repository, this is connected also to other repositories. I can name the biggest one, which is ZOUROU, which is a pan-European effort of ZOUROU. Ivo may refer to this later. So it's not just Eva placing it on board, it is placing it here and communicating along many other repositories, which is very, very important. And also it's not a business behind making money out of that, as academia do, and